Well, good afternoon and welcome to Thinking Tuesday. This is your monthly Thinking Tuesday message from Dr. Cheryl Burton. As you know, I deal a lot here on Thinking Tuesday with how we think, because how we think determines how we feel, and how we feel determines the actions that we take. And based on the actions we take, we have a result. So, just to remind you, those of you who are here for the first time, those of you who have been following me every month for Thinking Tuesday, we have a motto that says, your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds. And you can decide to grow flowers, or you can decide to grow weeds. And that indicates that you have the power to choose your thoughts. If your thoughts are not serving you well, just like weeds, if they're negative, if they're taking you to a bad space and you're feeling anxious and angry and all of those emotions, those negative emotions, then you can choose to shift that. You have the power. That's one thing that nobody can take away from you. You have complete control over what you think, and therefore, it helps you to control what you feel, and then it helps you to control the actions that you take, and those actions produce results. Hopefully, they're good results and the results that you want. So your mind is really a garden of thoughts, and you choose whether you're going to grow flowers, which are those positive, self-affirming, growth producing thoughts, or whether or not you're going to choose weeds, which are those, sometimes they camouflage as flowers, but weeds are still weeds. And they are those negative thoughts that don't take you to a productive place. So now that I've set the stage for our Thinking Tuesday, today I want to talk to you about something that's been coming up a lot. Not that it's not ever present, but it just seems to be more present in this environment. And that is about your values. We all have values. And we just go about our business, we live our lives. And for the most part, I would say most people, a lot of people are living their values and they're true to their values. But this is a time when a lot of people are responding in ways that contradict their values, where they're questioning their values. Uh, when was the last time? Let me ask you this. When was the last time that you sat down and really, really took an inventory of your personal values, your core values? Do you have core values? We all have them, and we just live them without thinking about them. But sometimes things shift. Things shift, and we are choosing values that we don't realize that we're choosing, but they come out in our actions. Lately, I've been speaking to a lot of people about values. They're questioning their values, they're shifting their values. Some of them are finding that they have conflicting values. They're making statements and taking actions that really do not align sometimes with what they say, with what they say their values are. So, the values that we say we live by should be demonstrated in how we live. So many are taking actions merely based on emotions because in this, unfortunately, in this political environment, there are just a lot of emotions. And many are taking action based on emotions without really examining the consequences of their actions. So I say to all, slow down, take a breath, take a pill. Give yourself time to really reflect. This is a time for reflection. And reflection is very important because it helps us to determine what decisions we're going to make. We all have values that we subscribe to. However, oftentimes we might find that we're not aware of why we choose those values. Are they values that we're raised on, that we grew up on as children? Um, are they in alignment now that we're adults with the decisions that we make or how we live our lives? We do keep some of those core values that were taught by our parents or grandparents or those institutions that help mold our lives. But sometimes values change over time as we get older, as we surround ourselves with people of a particular affiliation, maybe, or as we go through various life changes, for example. Sometimes it's a particular life change that is just thrust upon you that makes you change or question your values. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you decide and they are in alignment with your way of life. So don't just do it based on emotions. Really ask yourself, uh, if you really need to clarify, because many times we need to clarify our values, you know, like I said, in this current political environment, many are confronted with making decisions that demand an honest evaluation of how they're living their lives and whether or not they're going to continue to ascribe to those values that they ascribed to before. Nothing wrong with that. Self examination is very healthy and it's key to our growth. So, if you need clarity in defining or understanding your values, here are some examples, just some examples of questions that you may ask yourself to help you in that exercise. Because usually values come with a lot of feelings. You get clues from that. So, a question you might ask yourself: what is important to me in life? What is important? That's a value question. If you could have a career, any career, without worrying about money or other practical constraints, what would you do? A question like that helps you to define or identify a value. Another such question would be, when you're reading or listening to news stories, for example, what sort of story or behavior tends to inspire you? That would help you to determine, to identify a value that's important to you. Another question would be, what type of story or behavior makes you angry? For example, if you feel that there's some people that are being treated unfairly, unjust, that are discriminated against, maybe because of the color of their skin, a disability, whatever it is, and you find yourself feeling very angry because of the way they're treated. And sometimes you might even inject yourself into that situation to advocate for that person that's being treated unfairly. That's a value situation. So, your value, if you search for a word that describes how you feel, it might be compassion. It might be that that type of situation leads you to feel compassion for those who are being treated unfairly, for example. Or justice might be another value coming out of a situation like this. So, these questions help you to really zero in and identify what value you might be operating on. Another such question might be, what do you want to change about the world or about yourself? Think about that. That should help you to move towards a certain value that's important to you. What are you most proud of? Are you proud that you just got your degree, that long fought for degree that you've been aspiring for? Yeah. So achievement, or persistence might be a value that you would see coming out of that kind of question. And the last question is, when were you happiest? When were you happiest? We're into the Thanksgiving season now. A lot of people are getting together with their families. So you might find that this is the happiest period for you when you're with family. So a value that you're really describing is family. You're family oriented. So these are just some questions that you might ask yourself to help you identify or clarify your values. And when you do that, you might find that some of these values that are very strong, that you feel them very strongly in your core, that's what we call personal core values, and we should all have them. We all have them, but we need to be able to identify them. You might feel that some other values that you've been acting upon might be in conflict with some of those real core values. So it is very important to take some time to evaluate personal core values because they're important and they serve to help guide in the decisions that you make on an everyday basis, even without thinking about them, because there's so much the core of you. Are they serving you well? That's the question you want to ask. Can they be improved? Are they in conflict with something that you might have ascribed to as a personal core value? So as you take a personal inventory of your values, you have the opportunity to determine if the values are really in alignment with the actions that you take. That's ultimately what you want to determine. Or vice versa. Is your behavior or are your actions indicating that there may be a shift or a shifting in your values? Because values change as we get older, like I say. And they also change when we find ourselves in different environments, in different situations. We might find that a previous value no longer has the importance that it previously had. So we are not static people. We are constantly changing. We're growing. We change. And so do our values. But some of them remain standard and never change because there's so much of a core. So I want to suggest to you a simple but very impactful exercise to help you identify and clarify your values if that's what you'd like to do. And I recommend it for everyone because this should be values clarification and identification should be an ongoing exercise in our lives. This is what I want to suggest to you as an exercise. Find a quiet place where there'll be no distraction, no disturbances. Tell everyone, leave me alone for 10, 15 minutes, maybe a half hour if that's what you need. Carve out that time for you and be prepared to be brutally honest with yourself. You're dealing with your personal core values. So be prepared to be brutally honest with yourself because you're going to have to write as many words as you can think of that indicate different values. Whatever those values are, write as exhaustive a list as you can. And when you've created that list, and you can always go back and add, but in one sitting, try to write as many as you can, and then select at least maybe 15, 20, 15 values that are important to you from that list. So that means that you have to write at least 20 or more. And then I want you to reduce that to 10 values because now you're prioritizing. You're looking at all of them, they're all important to you, but some might resonate more with you. And then from there, I want you to reduce those 10 to 5 and then from 5 to 3. It doesn't mean that the others are not important, but what you're trying to do with this exercise is to really zero in on those top 3 that mean everything to you. Doesn't mean that you're not going to live some of the others, but you shouldn't have more than about 10 in all, right? So see what those are, but try to see if you can reduce them to 3. You might find that some of them are similar, and then you may choose to take the one that's most representative of all of those. That is an exercise that we all can benefit from, especially in these days, these very tumultuous days with such heightened anxiety and so much uncertainty. We can only rely on who we are And we have to be constantly building who we are, growing ourselves so that we can have the best life that we'd like to have. So do yourself a favor, question your values. If they're in alignment with your actions and you're satisfied, fine. You don't have to make any changes, but it's an exercise that can be helpful for all of us just to make sure that our values are in alignment with our actions. And all of this still has to do with thoughts because it depends on how we're thinking also, right? And how those thoughts are driving our feelings and then our actions and our results. So we it thinking and the thoughts are always at the base of what we're doing. We can't get away from that. And the more we are aware, the more we are aware of what we're thinking and what we're choosing, the more control we can be of our lives. There are things that are going to happen that we're not in control of, but they're things that only we can control. So choose well, choose your thoughts well. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving for those of you who celebrate. There's always a lot to be grateful for. And I look forward to seeing you again the last Tuesday of December for another message. Remember, reach out to me through my website, drcherylburton.com. Feel free to request a confidential consultation, um, and I'll be sure to get back to you. You can also share this. I urge you to share this message with someone who you feel could benefit from it. And if you're interested in viewing some of my past messages, feel free to go to my YouTube channel, Thinking Tuesday, Cheryl Burton. So take care, enjoy your holidays, and I'll see you next month. Take care. Bye now.